Okay, so now we're going to continue on with chapter 42 of Ezekiel, the continuation of this vision Ezekiel's having about the temple. If you haven't watched chapters 40 and 41, I'd recommend watching those to get more of the dimensions and ideas of what's happening. So here we're going to get more about the place where the priests live and do their things in this vision today, or this part of the vision, I should say. It's probably all one vision, but it got broken into multiple chapters, basically. Chapter 1, or I did that last time. Verse 1. Then he brought me forth into the outer court. It says outer court, but it means outer court, really. The way toward the north. And he brought me into the chamber that was over against the separate place, which was before the building toward the north. Before the length of 100 cubits was the north door, and the breadth was 50 cubits. Over against the 20 cubits, which were for the inner court, over against the pavement, which was for the outer court, was a gallery against gallery in 3 stories. So there's some height on these ones. Verse 4, and before the chambers was a walk of 10 cubits breadth inward, a way of 1 cubit, and their doors toward the north. So a walkway, like a sidewalk, to get there, basically. Verse 5, now the upper chambers were shorter, for the galleries were higher than these, and the lower and in the middle most of the building. For they were in 3 stories, but had not pillars as the pillars of the courts. Therefore the building was straightened more than the lowest and the middlemost from the ground. So there are different heights, basically, as you go up in these stories. Let's see, verse 7, and the wall was without over against the chambers, toward the outer court on the forepart of the chambers, the length thereof was 50 cubits. For the length of the chambers that were in the outer court was 50 cubits, and lo, before the temple were 100 cubits. And from under these chambers was the entry on the east side, as one goeth into them from the outer court. The chambers were in the thickness of the wall of the court toward the east, over against the separate place and over against the building. The way before them was like the appearance of the chambers which were toward the north, as long as they, and as broad as they, and all their goings out were both according to their fashions, according to their doors. According to the doors of the chambers that were toward the south as a door in the head of the way, even the way directly before the wall, before the east as one entereth into them. Now, I don't blame you for being confused at this point as we read this. It's kind of hard to follow. How is he doing, how is he referencing these things to help us understand it? We're going to get a little bit more here. Verse 13, then he said unto me, the north chambers and the south chambers, which are before the separate place, they be holy chambers, where the priests that approach unto the Lord shall eat the most holy things. There shall they lay the most holy things, and the meat offering, and the sin offering, and the trespass offering, for the place is holy. So these are the places where the priests are going to be doing their work, the sacrifices. So different rooms for different sacrifices. Verse 14, when the priests there enter therein, then shall they not go out of the holy place into the outer court, but there shall they lay their garments wherein they minister, for they are holy, and shall put on other garments, and shall approach those things which are for the people. Now let's just pause for a second here. So this is talking about basically a locker room or a changing room. So the priests come in, they take their garments, they take their clothes, they take them off, they get ready to officiate. If you can think of I believe this is Genesis chapter 40, Exodus 40, sorry, not Genesis, Exodus 40. Thou shalt bring the Aaron and his sons unto the door of the tabernacle of congregation, and wash him with water, and anoint him, and sanctify him, and thou shalt put upon Aaron the holy garments. Those kinds of things, that ritual washing and anointing, preparing them to walk away from the worldly stuff and officiate in holy things. That's what they're talking about here, basically. So they're going to put on their holy garments, and then they are ready to officiate, to do their priesthood work, basically. Now, verse 15, now when he had made an end of measuring the inner house, he brought me forth toward the gate, whose prospect is toward the east, and measured it round about. He measured the east side with the measuring reed 500 reeds, with the measuring reed round about. He measured the north side 500 reeds. Now remember, each reed is 10.5 feet. So he puts a reed down, marks it, moves the reed to the next, from the one mark, marks it again to the next mark, moves the reed, marks it again. They did this until they got 500 of those done. That's a lot. He measured the south side 500 reeds with the measuring rod. He turned about to the west side and measured 500 reeds with the measuring reed. He measured it by the four sides and had a wall round about 500 reeds long, 500 broad, to make a separation between the sanctuary and the profane place. So now we're, the temple versus everywhere else and how things are working out. Is there more structure and understanding where they're administering their things and doing things as the priests do, basically. Now, let's get into our next chapter as we get into a little more purpose of this temple. Not so much the structure. If you're an architect, you might have found those last couple of chapters fascinating. But now we're going to get more of the purpose and some more things are going on. So let's see you in the next chapter.